Welcome back to Peyton Manning Road to the Super Bowl. Peyton's career at Tennessee started as an SEC Freshman of the Year, ended with a controversial Heisman Trophy decision. Sandwiched in between a string of memorable victories and a handful of gut-wrenching losses. 10 Sports Director Nick Carboni shows us the progression from a son overshadowed by his father to a quarterback forging his own SEC legacy.
It's been nearly 20 years now since a fresh-faced son of an SEC legend arrived here in Knoxville.
I guess I'd grown up being kind of red and blue man, being, from an Ole Miss family, but the arms will work.
But before work started, Peyton had to wait his turn.
Before anybody asked, Todd Helton is our quarterback.
But it didn't take long before that job permanently belonged to number 16.
I was ready. It's kind of the way I prepared.
Manning dug Tennessee out of a 1-3 hole his freshman year, and he never looked back. His fame soared, but his ego did not.
I'm going to remain the same person and go out and play good football.
He still holds Tennessee career records for touchdowns, passing yards, and completions. Peyton and Knoxville became inseparable.
I'm going to stay at the University of Tennessee.
Perhaps Peyton's greatest stat, though, is 39 wins, the most in Vols history. He won in January. He won in Birmingham. He won awards.
Mr. Peyton Manning.
And he won championships.
Give me that hat. I need that hat.
I bet you that hat means more than any trophy, doesn't it?
That's why I wanted to play. I wanted to get this hat. I'm a big hat wearer. This is the best hat in the world right here. Woo!
He handled the victories with grace.
Hearing those names of the past award winners, a real honor to be mentioned among some of those guys.
And the losses, too.
I needed to play extremely well to win this ball game. I didn't get that done, so I apologize.
When it was all over, Peyton was quick to reminisce.
It was just it was unbelievable. That's the only word I know how to describe it.
There's no doubt Peyton Manning enjoyed Tennessee tradition. In fact, he became a part of it.
Tennessee ball. I just want to say thank y'all very much from the bottom of my heart.
Fun to look back at that stuff, isn't it? Well, Philip Fulmer will be at MetLife Stadium on Sunday to watch his former quarterback. Chris Budden sat down with a former UT coach to talk about his surprise commitment to Tennessee and fears about Peyton's neck surgery.
Well, yesterday morning I woke up with a huge sense of relief because I finally knew what I was going to do.
The day that Peyton announced and he's sitting there with his dad, were you shocked that he picked Tennessee at the end of the day?
Shocked is not the right word. I was pleased and maybe a little bit surprised. After a great visit he had, and it actually snowed much like today, and he had to stay over another night, which turned out to be a good thing. I felt like we had a really good chance.
When he was here, he kind of got thrown right into it. How ready was he for that first game?
First game, he probably wasn't ready. He obviously wasn't ready. I mean, it takes time. Seventh play into the UCLA game, I knew, he was going to be our quarterback at some point in the season when he was ready.
Who he is as a quarterback, his growth through college, how much of it was just innate talent that he came in with, and how much of it did he learn and develop throughout his years at Tennessee?
Well, because some of that's hard to quantify because he was so far ahead of a lot of young quarterbacks because of his dad and his background and he sat in meetings with offensive coordinators and head coaches probably since he was 5, all the way through, and he knew how to look at a tape and understand coverages and those kinds of things. But there's no question that he had great ability, no question about the arm strength or the throwing motion and all those things that somewhat come natural and can be coached and to be better.
When he left here, did you have a feeling that he would have the success that he was going to have in the NFL?
The owner of the Colts, Israel, came to see me, and we were talking, and I'm in my office, and he was trying to get me to compare Ryan Leaf. Well, I didn't know Ryan Leaf, hadn't seen Ryan Leaf play very much, except maybe in passing on television. And I told him, I said, I can't compare the two, but all I can tell you is this guy is going to be maybe the best to ever play the game and definitely a Hall of Famer.
Throughout the injury and the surgery that he had, were you worried at all about him coming back from that as a father figure maybe to him, and worried that he might get injured again?
Yeah, I was very concerned about that, and I made the point to Peyton that this football thing is not the most important thing in the world, and his chance to play with his children and be completely healthy was more important. So as Archie and Olivia were telling him the same things, and it was a dramatic thing in their life, and particularly in Peyton's life. So I would have been fine if he'd have just hung it up. Now, there's another example of his toughness, his work ethic, his understanding of his body, and what he wanted to do.
There's a lot of great quarterbacks, a lot that have won more Super Bowls, that have just as good of arms. What about him is it that people love?
Joe Montana, there's a lot of people that you could put into this basket, which are all great quarterbacks and great people. Peyton has kept his humility. He's proud of where he's from, with his family and his time at Tennessee and his time in Indianapolis. I mean, he compliments those things rather than having the battle. When it came time to have to make the separation and go on, he always handles things in a very first-class manner, and whoever you are, you have to appreciate that. Whoever you pull for, you have to pull a little bit for him, because he's such a good guy and he represents the game, professionally and collegiately so well. And he's class. He's funny. He's humorous. He has an unbelievable personality, and all those things wrapped together make Peyton Manning what he is today.
And Chris joining us now. You mentioned a father figure in there. How close are they still?
Here's what I love about it. 17 years later, you still understand the dynamic, that they almost are as close as they were the day that he left, that he really does still look at him as a father figure. Not just him, but David Cutcliffe as well. When Peyton was going through the whole rehab session, he went out to Duke and stayed with Cutcliffe in his basement. These are the people that he's still connected with. And one thing that Fulmer touched on was you don't see that a lot in professional athletes. They don't keep the ties that they do to their college towns. And I think that that's what makes him so loved here in comparison to maybe all the other former Vols that are in the pros.
And Manning wanted to make sure that Coach Fulmer would be there on Sunday.
Yeah, Fulmer said he has not been to a Super Bowl since the last time that Peyton played in one. He says that he's had the opportunity to, but it'll be hard. There's 4 on one side and 1 on the other side, so he's just hoping it's a good game.
Right. We'll talk about the Vols playing in that game in a little bit. Thanks. Great story. All right, and we're going to be back with more Peyton Manning Road to the Super Bowl right after this.
Always made us feel like we meant something to him.
How Peyton Manning continues his relationships with the UT staff, and a discussion on his legacy at UT. Is he the best to ever wear the orange? That's coming up.